Hello and welcome to another jungle video, and in this one we're going to try something just a little bit different. And I'm going to talk about why the jungle meta stinks, sucks, and is just plain boring. Not the jungle in general, which is going to be receiving some more buffs next patch, more the impact of the champions in the role that allow you to actually win and climb. And it's important to define what I mean by meta. I don't necessarily mean just the champions you can jungle well in solo queue. In terms of that diversity, we've been in a very good spot for a while. I feel there's a lot of things that you can pull out and use. It's more about the general excitement of the entire roster and the fact that the top 10 picks can largely squash any of those niche picks that may be fun and unique, but are basically just candles to the fluorescent lights of the top 5 to 10 picks, and that's what I want to break down and address in this video. Now, as such, I make best junglers videos every patch or every 2 patches depending on how things change, and oftentimes there's little movements up and down, and I realize why junglers get so frustrated with the meta so quickly into every season, why we get so tilted besides AD carries and top laners not understanding anything about the game, is that our champion meta is just boring, it's tedious, it's exhausting, and it's 100% down to new champions and reworks. Elise and Lee Sin have dominated the jungle for so long, no champion released subsequent to them has the same ability and impact in the jungle position than they do. Then you've got the mainstays like the Jarvan, the Sejuani, the Gragas. You know, I cannot watch another pro game without being bored out of my mind watching the jungle matchups. And when I do see a Kindred played in pro play, it's like watching a one-legged duck hop around and try to be a tiger. I don't even know what that metaphor means, but that's what I feel like watching a pro Kindred. What happened to the days when I could see Rengar winning worlds like in Season 4? That just doesn't exist anymore. And here's why. All the new champions and reworks and other roles always end up in pro play or high elo play. They end up very strong, people love to play them, they make more skins for them, and largely as a byproduct, these champions are so strong that they actually work in the jungle. And I'll get to them in a second, but look at the jungle perspective. The last jungler released specifically for the role was Kayn. Horrifically bad in pro play and only used by certain high elo junglers like Charismite to great success. Most of us only use him here and there, and he just doesn't have a strategic place because there's a million other junglers that do what he does better and way sooner. Yes, he has a dedicated edgelord fan base and his play rate has been good historically, but in the last year or so his popularity, even on my videos on this channel, has been nowhere near as high as it's been in the past. So that was Kayn released in 2017. Before him, we had Ivern released in 2016, and then Kindred in 2015. The last one before that, Rek'Sai at the end of 2014. Rek'Sai is the last released champion that has any sort of permanent pro play success or high elo relevance. Oh, Virkayu, but look at the reworks. Okay, let me look at the reworks. Do I look like the type of person to write this kind of scripted video and, not do my research? Actually, none of my videos are scripted at all, but I did do my research. The most recent one was Pantheon, but he ended up sort of being a hidden OP jungler. But even so, his win rate isn't that great and he's better in mid and top. And in Korea, they really do like him in the mid lane. The way you need to play Pantheon in the jungle is so high elo that you're not going to see people climbing with it to diamond. Go look at the video that I did on it recently. You need to know exactly what to do in the early game. You need to know pathing, tracking, aggressive measures in terms of fighting, and you need to do it well, because if you fall behind, you cannot keep up in terms of AFK farm. You also need good macro sense because of your ultimate. So Pantheon rework, doesn't really strike a chord in the general jungle meta. And yeah, I know Fiddlesticks has come out. We will be receiving Volibear later in the year, but we need to see where Fiddle's going to land. We need to see what Volibear is going to be. But I'm going to come forward and say, unless they are super overpowered, they will not define the meta. They will remain niche picks, and they won't change the general landscape that I'm talking about in this video. Before that, Nunu and Willump, 2018. While they helped Pants climb up the challenger ladder when he couldn't do it with anything else, definitely a great addition to the jungle meta, but underused, underappreciated because they are a tank. Because they will never work in pro and high elo play, they will not have that exposure. They won't get new skins, they won't drive playability, they won't have a huge pick rate. They don't change or dictate the jungle meta at all. If you play Nunu, you just play Nunu. Nothing else in the game is gonna change because Nunu. And sorry for Willem, I do prefer you, that's why I just use Nunu in the negative, you're a good fluffy boy. Before that, Evelynn and Warwick. Now you can say, well, they both have had good impact on the meta throughout the past 3 years, and I agree with you. However, Warwick is still historically a great pick below Diamond, and Evelynn is still a great pick by people smurfing. Rarely, if ever, do they dictate the meta, do they transcend everything and force other picks to show up. They just exist and do their thing, and while that's great, because you all know I main Evelynn, I main Warwick, Ornn and Zyra, those are some of my core 4 champions. If you want to climb, if you want to have the most impact in the game, you're not looking to have those champions. And that's my problem. Wukong is currently overtuned. He is the best win rate jungler in the game at the moment. But guess what? He looks like he was built in graphics from 1997. He is boring. He is one-dimensional. He is not exciting. I see Wukong, I go, ugh. And if someone asks me, well, Virkayu, if you want to win, if you want LP, why didn't you play Wukong? Well, you know, I have enough bonobos in my game that I want to cosplay a monkey. And I look at all of them, they're all pre-2013. The only exception being Echo, who's 2015 and honestly was designed to be a mid laner. He's been in and out of the jungle and currently still very frustrating from the jungle position. And that's only been the last 6 months, so it's great that we have a champion from 2015 until you realize that's 5 years ago. Then you've got the Rek'Sai in 2014. The meta is consistently defined, run, dictated by champions that have been out for so long that most of us don't remember exactly when they came out. For so long that it's just become boring. And Riot's refusal to make a jungler a new champion and reworks that actually sustain and dictate the meta is incredibly frustrating. Now you might say, well, Virkayu, we've seen some spicy picks in the jungle in the last year or two, and I'll agree with you. But that's because these were overtuned picks for other positions and other reworks. Look at Mordekaiser, Irelia, and Aatrox, Akali. They dominated the meta, they still dominate the meta as reworks. What jungler has had the same impact as them? Literally none. What about Yuumi and Pyke from the support position? Has any new jungler dominated the meta like them? Oh wait, we haven't had any, and no. I didn't even mention Rakan from the support position because I have to put him with Xayah. Then you've got Senna, Aphelios, no doubt will be used in Worlds, I guarantee you this year. Kai'Sa, Jhin, these are all notable picks that have dominated the Worlds metas and high elo and play all across the game when they were released and for long periods afterwards. Junglers haven't had these new champions with that impact in so long. Mid lane, top lane, solo lane in general have had this as well. Yeah, we had the Nico, which kind of disappeared a little bit. That's a byproduct of a kit. But other than that, from new champions, you have Sett, you have Qiyana, you have Sylas, you have the abomination of a champion in Zoe. You had Ornn in top lane, who of course I play jungle, but I mean, he has the 38% win rate in the jungle. He's not a jungler, he is a top laner. Don't forget that the end of 2016 was Camille already, and shortly before that you had the Kled. In terms of rework, you've got Mordekaiser, you have Pantheon, Kayle Morgana, Ezreal, Akali, Aatrox, Irelia, Swain, Urgot, Galio. Do all these picks sound like things that have dominated metas, been permabanned, and been very difficult to tune? Yeah, I agree with you. Jungle hasn't had that issue. But guess what? Because of the nature of a lot of these champions kits, they've worked in both solo lanes and they've also worked in jungle. The problem is this has only affected one champion core, and that has been Taliyah. She was a mid laner, they changed her such that she became a jungler, but she was so disturbingly OP. They nerfed her and basically she's only a high elo pick now. Some do play her bottom lane, some do mid lane, that's great. As much as we all hated facing Qiyana and the Sylas, they were both fun options in the jungle, but they were largely removed away from it. Even now, Sylas can work in the jungle, but he's still better in the mid and the top lane. They neutered Qiyana jungle, they also removed Aatrox jungle, that was also a fun thing. We had Urgot jungle for a little bit and that was removed after one patch. But Virkayu, what about Camille in the top lane? She went to the jungle in 2018. Yes, and she was very obnoxious, but it was nice to have a different pick, I agree with you. But then they removed her stun and made her kinda useless. Sure, the best in the world can play it, and that's the issue. They end up as very niche, high elo, super skill capped picks. And then I look at the meta defining champions and I go, oh, well, I'm back to the Wukong, I'm back to Elise, Lee Sin, Olaf, Shaco, Rek'Sai, Graves. Great. It is very sad to be someone who wants to climb with a meta champion from the jungle position. And please, don't get me started on tanks. Listen, right. I love Ornn, I play Ornn, but you want him to be a top laner. I want him to be a jungler also, but you don't seem to want to encourage this playstyle. I don't know why, it's super fun. Also, Riot, Sejuani and Zac, there are more tanks that can jungle than Sejuani and Zac. Can we maybe buff and fix it so that that's possible? Yes, you might say Rammus and Amumu and Nunu, but good luck playing in high elo with those. But again, these are not interesting and new picks. It's time to nerf Elise, it's time to nerf Lee Sin, it's time to nerf the things that dictate exactly what we play. It's time to shake up pro play. Let us have champions that can actually have different sets of skill expression so I don't have to watch Jarvan vs Gragas vs Lee Sin vs Elise for another 1,000 years. It's almost a topic for another video. What if Elise and Lee Sin simply didn't exist? What would change in the jungle meta? I guarantee you it would be very interesting to watch. But then again, we don't have anything new that can actually work without it being nerfed and only constrained to one role. I don't know what the solution is. 200 years of collective design experience aside, they are the experts, they get paid to do this. I trust them to figure it out better than I trust all of us to figure it out. Most of you are crazy anyway. Like the Wukong mains on Twitter, you don't actually know anything about the balancing of numbers just because you're biased to your particular champion. My issue is that certain strong junglers are so strong in what they do, they suppress any of the off-meta or unique picks that are fun. I love playing Zyra, you just introduced Morgana and Brand Jungle, these are interesting, and they can work, but the meta picks are so powerful against a lot of these, if they play it right, you will never win games, and that's frustrating for people in Diamond and above, because now you're restricted to the boring old meta picks, or you can try and do your best with the off-meta picks, as I like to do, but it's always an uphill battle, and the most exciting new meta pick in the last long while has been a champion that's called Wukong and was released who the hell knows when. Next time an Aatrox jungle or something like that actually exists, I know you can still kinda use it, but it's very niche and it's nowhere near being a relevant power pick. The reworks, the new champions that come for the other lanes at such frequency, they dominate the meta, they change the way the game is played. It's very exciting for the position, for people to learn them, for people to pick up the skins and get excited about the new mechanics, and it just makes me very sad that from the jungle position we sort of watch this and go, okay, I guess it's okay, time to watch some Sejuani gameplay again, alright. And as a final note, Riot, introducing weird gimmicks that make champions that are not junglers doesn't work because you told us you focused that on the low elo. You even said that. You said jungle diversity and low elo. What about jungle diversity and high elo or mid elo? None of those picks and changes to jungle champions introduced any variety whatsoever to any part of the ladder that's relevant. I'm sorry, silver players, but if you play Mordekaiser to try and climb through it, you're not going to be able to use it for very long because it's just going to suck compared to everything else, you know, like an Olaf. All I'm asking for is a bit of spice in our lives. The marriage has become dull, we're in the same routine, every other relationship looks like they're having the time of their lives. It's as if these new champions and gifts that are given to each other just keep the spark alive, and in jungle I have to keep playing Olaf and Elise and Lee Sin. Please Riot, save us. You're our only hope. And that's my rant. I hope it made sense. I hope you agree. Let me know in the comments what you think about the general jungle meta, what you think about pro play meta, what you would do to change it and introduce. Please do like, share, and comment if you enjoyed. And of course, subscribe if you want more, actual tutorials. But if you want more like this, let me know in the comments as well. This was actually really fun to record as the servers are currently exploding and I have no idea if we're ever going to be able to play again. But nonetheless, I will see you all in the next tutorial.